Once a fire has been extinguished, the visible damage is readily apparent. The more demanding question concerns the extent of the contamination that is not visible, and it is the question that a fire residue investigation is specifically designed to answer. It would be possible simply to clean the visibly affected areas and redecorate, and in minor incidents that may even be sufficient. In most cases, however, smoke and combustion particles travel way beyond the seat of the fire and deposit in rooms, voids and contents that appear entirely unaffected. Cleaning on the basis of visible damage alone therefore risks two opposite errors at the same time: leaving genuine contamination in place where it was never suspected, and clearing or even replacing areas that were never affected. Both outcomes are to the detriment of the client, one through residual risk, the other through wasted expenditure. A fire residue investigation is structured around 4 questions. The first concerns extent. How far has the residue actually traveled? The second concerns hazard. Are contaminants of toxicological significance present that alter how the work must be undertaken and what protection is required? The third concerns the scope. Which areas and contents generally require cleaning, and equally important, which do not? And the fourth concerns verification. Once remediation is complete, can it be demonstrated rather than merely assumed that the cleaning has been effective? These questions are not merely procedural. Each drives a practical decision. Extent determines the scale, program and cost of the works. Hazard determines the protective measures, the cleaning methods and the disposal requirements. Scope determines what is cleaned, what is replaced and what is discarded. And verification determines the point at which the property can properly be released back to its occupants. A weakness in any one of them undermines the others, because a scope built on poor understanding of extent or a clearance built on a poor understanding of hazard cannot really be relied on. Measurement is the element common to all 4. The purpose of the investigation is to quantify contamination that cannot be judged reliably by eye. So the decision rests on evidence rather than on appearance, memory or assumption. This is the essential distinction between an assessment and an opinion, and it is what allows the resulting decisions to be defended if they are later questioned. An effective investigation begins with a clearly defined objective, because the objective is what determines what should be measured and what need not be. Unfocused complexity is rarely beneficial. It increases cost, it generates data of little practical value, and it delays decisions that after a fire often have to be taken promptly to allow reoccupation or the resumption of business. The aim is not the largest possible body of data, but the minimum body of evidence that answers the defined question with confidence. Conducted properly, an investigation protects every party involved. The client is neither charged for the unnecessary work nor exposed to residual contamination. The occupants return to premises that are genuinely clean rather than merely redecorated. Insurers are given a defensible, evidence-based basis for the expenditures they authorize. And should the adequacy of the work later be questioned by a regulator or an insurer or a future purchaser, a documented record is available to support it. So, in summary, a property is investigated not in order to generate documentation, but to answer 4 definite questions: extent, hazards, scope, and verification. And to answer each one of them by measuring what cannot simply be observed. This structured framework is reflected in the recognized industry standard for fire and smoke restoration, the IICRC S700.